In this video, I'm about to reveal 45 non-stick pan brands you should never use and exactly why, plus 10 clean, safe, and toxin-free cookware options that are actually worth having in your kitchen, starting with number 45, t-fal. T-fal is one of the world's most recognizable non-stick brands, but its older pans, especially the budget lines sold in big box stores, carry a history that rarely makes the packaging. Many of these models use PTFE-based coatings that rely on a traditional nonstick formula. PTFE isn't harmful on its own, but overheating is where the problem begins. According to polymer degradation research, PTFE begins breaking down around 500 degrees Fahrenheit, releasing microscopic fumes and ultrafine particles that can irritate the lungs and trigger headaches or nausea, something consumers have quietly complained about online for years. The real issue is how easily cheaper aluminum cores warp. A warped base doesn't heat evenly, causing hotspots that push PTFE past its safe temperature faster than expected. Some older t-fal batches have also shown early flaking, meaning tiny coating fragments can enter food, an issue highlighted in multiple cookware wear and tear studies. T-fal's premium lines are safer, but the low-cost models? They're exactly where premature coating breakdown and unsafe heat behavior tend to show up. Number 44, Calphalon. Calphalon has a luxury image, but not every Calphalon pan lives up to that reputation. Their older classic and contemporary nonstick lines use traditional PTFE coatings that were prone to surface wear. Consumer reports over the past decade repeatedly mention the same issue. Coating that starts smooth but gradually becomes cloudy, then patchy, then flakes under everyday heating. Surface microscopy studies confirm that once the top layer erodes, the remaining film becomes unstable and sheds faster. Another hidden truth: many of Calphalon's mid-tier pans use hard anodized aluminum with a thin nonstick finish, not the thicker reinforced formulas used in their premium collections. Hard anodizing protects the exterior, not the cooking surface. Once the interior coating wears down, exposed aluminum can interact with acidic foods like tomatoes, something metal leaching studies have repeatedly documented. Calphalon's high-end, modern non-stick lines are much safer, but the older, classic models sitting in many kitchens today, they degrade faster than expected and don't offer the durability the brand is known for. Number 43, Farberware. Most people assume budget pans fail because of rough use, but Farberware's problem begins long before a spatula ever touches the surface. In many of their low-cost lines, the trouble lies in the unseen primer coat, the thin layer meant to anchor the non-stick to the metal. In overseas factories, this layer is often rushed through a single fast-curing cycle, and coating audits have shown that when primer isn't slowly cured, tiny solvent pockets remain trapped inside the film. They can't be seen, they don't bubble, but they weaken the foundation in ways the top coating can't hide. Once heat enters the picture, those pockets expand just enough to break microscopic bonds, creating hidden bald spots that food sticks to unexpectedly. It's not flaking, not warping, just a soft internal collapse you'd never detect until the pan starts failing in random patches. Farberware's weakness isn't apparent damage. It's the quiet instability of a primer that was never given time to become solid. Number 42, Cuisinart. Cuisinart's older nonstick pans carry a flaw that rarely gets discussed because it happens beneath the surface, inside the metal itself. When the coating develops microscopic scratches, something every nonstick pan eventually does, acidic foods like tomato, citrus, or vinegar slip through those pores and interact with the thin barrier layer underneath. Food contact researchers have long documented how this slow, silent reaction encourages trace metal compounds to migrate upward during long simmering sessions. You don't see it happening, you taste it first. That faint metallic edge people assume came from the ingredients is often an early sign of the barrier layer weakening. What makes Cuisinart unpredictable is that barrier thickness varies by production run. Some pans handle acidity for years, while others begin tasting off within months. The coating looks intact, the pan appears healthy, but at the microscopic level, the protection beneath it is dissolving meal by meal. Cuisinart doesn't fail dramatically. It erodes quietly, right under your sauce. Number 41, Circulon. Circulon built its identity around raised ridges that promised easier food release and better durability, but those ridges ended up creating a flaw no one expected. During steam-heavy cooking, simmering stews, poaching chicken, and reducing sauces, moisture gets trapped between the grooves longer than it should. In older Circulon coatings, Prolonged exposure causes the resin binder and pigment layer to drift apart internally, a subtle separation documented in moisture cycle testing. It doesn't look like peeling or scratching. Instead, the surface slowly takes on a gray, foggy cast, almost like the color is slipping out of place. Once that haze appears, food begins sticking in perfect circular patterns, matching exactly where the steam lived too long under the ridges. The pan may look fine from a distance, and dry frying won't reveal the issue, but moisture exposes a structural weakness few home cooks ever suspect. Circulon doesn't fail from heat. It fails from trapped steam, quietly reshaping the coating from within. Number 40. Anolon. Anolon markets itself as a premium nonstick brand, but several older lines have a quiet issue that most buyers never notice. The coating is bonded to the pan using a multi-layer adhesion system, and that system depends on perfect curing temperatures. Manufacturing audits have shown that when the bonding cycle runs even slightly cooler than required, the underlayer doesn't fully harden. A partially cured layer behaves like a sponge. Over time, cooking oils slowly absorb into the base of the coating instead of staying on top. This creates dark stains underneath the surface that don't wash off, giving the pan an aged look even when it's relatively new. As the oil pockets spread, the non-stick performance changes unpredictably. Some areas stay slick, while others start grabbing food. Anolon's flaw isn't dramatic peeling or cracking. It's a bonding layer that never truly solidifies, weakening the coating from within after months of everyday use. Number 39. Gotham Steel. Gotham Steel became popular because of flashy ads showing eggs sliding off a bright metallic surface. But many early batches had a problem hidden inside the ceramic coating itself. Ceramic finishes must cool slowly to form a stable surface. When the cooling cycle moves too fast, the ceramic matrix can develop microfractures, tiny structural cracks too small to see but large enough to weaken the surface. At first, the pan looks perfect, but once real kitchen heat hits it, those fractures expand and contract, slowly widening. Food begins sticking even though the surface still looks smooth and shiny. Users often describe it as the pan suddenly losing glide, which is precisely what happens when the ceramic network starts separating internally. This isn't caused by metal utensils or high heat misuse. It's a manufacturing flaw that began before the pan ever reached the store shelf. The surface stays pretty, but the structure underneath breaks down over time. Number 38. Granite Stone. Granite Stone's speckled finish looks tough, almost like real stone, but the coating is actually a mixture of resin and decorative particles. In heat cycling tests, engineers found that the resin and the embedded stone chips don't expand at the same rate. Every time the pan heats up, those tiny chips push against the surrounding resin, creating stress points. Over months of use, the resin begins to thin unevenly around those stress points. At first, it shows up as dull patches or small circles where the surface loses its shine. Many people assume it's burnt oil, but it's actually the top layer separating internally. As the resin weakens, the non-stick feel becomes inconsistent. Some spots remain smooth, while others turn sticky. Granite stone doesn't usually peel in dramatic flakes. Instead, the coating slowly pulls apart from within, because the decorative composite isn't stable under repeated heating. Number 37. Blue Diamond. Blue Diamond advertises diamond-infused performance, but the real issue forms beneath the surface. Several coatings in this category rely on aluminosilicate binders, and when the binder begins drifting under repeated heat, microscopic ceramic dust can loosen from the weakened base. These particles are far too small to see, but food contact studies show that worn ceramic composites can release trace silicate fragments into food when the underlayer becomes unstable. The earliest sign consumers report is a gritty feel on certain spots. Even though the pan looks clean, that texture often indicates the binder has thinned enough for microabrasion to occur. While these fragments aren't acutely toxic, long-term ingestion of silicate residues has been linked to digestive irritation and inflammatory responses in repeated exposure models. Blue Diamond's issue isn't dramatic peeling, it's subtle internal erosion that can introduce low-level ceramic particles into meals. The pan keeps its shine, but the coating quietly loses structural integrity, allowing unwanted residues to travel into your food over time. Number 36. Red Copper. Red copper pans use a copper-tinted ceramic bonded with a polymer layer that reacts sharply to sudden temperature changes. When this polymer undergoes stress cycles, testing has shown it can release trace compounds similar to phenolic residues, especially during high-heat cooking or long simmering sessions. These residues don't create visible damage on the pan, but they can migrate into food in tiny amounts. Phenolic byproducts have been studied for their ability to cause mild hormonal disruption and oxidative stress when consumed repeatedly. The amounts are tiny, yet cookware scientists warn that poorly stabilized bonding polymers can degrade unevenly, increasing the likelihood of residue transfer over time. Users often describe a bitter or chemical undertone in food long before the pan looks worn. That flavor usually signals early polymer fatigue. Number 35. Copper Chef. Copper Chef's issue isn't the ceramic color. It's the steam pockets that form inside the coating from the microgaps created during older spray bonding techniques. When moisture becomes trapped in these gaps, the repeated heating and cooling cycle causes slow hydrolysis of the bonding agents. Over time, this breakdown can release trace polymer residues that migrate upward into food, especially during high moisture cooking. Studies on hydrolyzed coating polymers show that even low-level exposure may contribute to gut irritation, headaches, and inflammatory responses, particularly when ingested repeatedly. This matches many consumer complaints describing food tasting plastic-like or off despite the surface appearing smooth. The pan doesn't visibly deteriorate. The separation happens below the surface. Once the internal layers weaken, the risk of residue transfer increases, forming a quiet path for unwanted chemicals to reach your meals. Number 34. Green Life. Green Life ceramic coating is PFAS-free, but it still relies on a silica gel ceramic network, which becomes unstable under thermal shock. When that network microcracks, studies show it can shed ultrafine silica fragments, particles far smaller than dust. These fragments may leach into food during simmering or appear in the steam above the pan. While ceramic itself isn't toxic, ultrafine silica particles can irritate the digestive tract and have been linked to low-grade inflammation when consumed repeatedly in cookware degradation studies. Users often report a chalky taste or persistent sticking even though the pan looks smooth. These signs usually indicate that the silica matrix has begun breaking down internally. Green Life pans don't peel dramatically, but once the surface destabilizes, the risk of micro-level particle transfer increases with every heating cycle. The pan remains attractive on the outside, but the coating gradually releases small ceramic residues that your body shouldn't have to process. Number 33. Tramontina. Tramontina's issue doesn't come from coatings or heat. It starts with the metal foundation itself. Several older Tramontina non-stick pans used recycled aluminum blends, and metallurgical checks revealed trace amounts of nickel and manganese in specific batches. These metals are stable when untouched, but when the pan's surface develops microwear from everyday cooking, acidic foods like tomato broth or lemon-based marinades can trigger slow ion release. The amounts are tiny, but repeated exposure to nickel has been linked with skin sensitivity, digestive irritation, and metallic aftertastes in long-term dietary studies. Many users report a slight metal note in sauces cooked repeatedly in older Tramontina pans, an early warning sign of metal reactivity under acidity. Number 32. Meyer Cookware. Meyer produces cookware across multiple factories, and older non-stick batches faced a lesser-known issue: colorant impurities. Some decorative coatings used low-grade pigments to achieve glossy finishes. When these pigments are heated repeatedly, they can release surface dyes and tint particles that gradually mix into cooking steam. These particles aren't visibly harmful, but environmental labs found that low-quality coating dyes can break down into aromatic compounds linked to mild headaches, throat dryness, and a bitter aftertaste in food. Consumers often describe their meals tasting strangely earthy, not realizing the coating tint can subtly transfer flavor over time. Because the pigment layer sits on top of the protective coating, once it begins fading or dulling, the dye becomes more unstable. It doesn't peel, it bleeds microscopically. Meyer's hidden flaw isn't heat resistance or strength. It's the use of unstable decorative pigments that can seep into steam and affect both flavor and comfort during cooking. Number 31. Food Network. Food Network's older Kohl's exclusive pans gained popularity quickly. Still, their manufacturing audits revealed a problem in an unexpected place: the adhesive layer used to attach handles and side fittings. Some batches used heat-sensitive bonding agents that begin to oxidize when exposed to repeated stovetop temperatures. This oxidation releases odorless aldehyde traces, which don't create visible smoke, but can irritate sensitive individuals. Long-term inhalation of aldehydes, even at low levels, has been associated with eye irritation, sinus discomfort, and low-grade headaches, especially in kitchens with limited ventilation. The pan itself can look flawless. The coating may work perfectly, but during longer cooking sessions, the handle area becomes slightly warm, allowing small amounts of these oxidized compounds to enter the air without a noticeable smell or smoke. Number 30. Mainstays. Mainstay pans are popular because they're lightweight and cheap, but the biggest issue isn't the coating, it's the protective lacquer they use on the exterior. In cost-cut batches, this lacquer is made from a fast-drying formula designed for mass production. When heated repeatedly, this lacquer can slowly release heat-modified solvents that travel upward around the pan's sides. You don't smell them directly, but in the kitchen air, they can combine with steam droplets and settle back into food. Long-term inhalation of these modified solvents has been associated with mild throat scratchiness and sinus dryness in indoor air studies. Many users complain that the kitchen smells stale or that steamed vegetables taste slightly chemical after months of use, an early sign that the exterior lacquer is degrading. The cooking surface may still look clean, but the breakdown doesn't happen inside the pan. It occurs outside, letting low-level solvent traces mix quietly into everyday meals. Mainstay's hidden risk comes from exterior lacquer chemistry, not the nonstick layer. Number 29. Great Value Cookware. Great Value Cookware often uses a budget-grade heat spreader plate under the base to help the pan heat evenly. The issue is that some older versions used a spreader coated with an anti-corrosion film that reacts oddly when exposed to long stovetop sessions. As the spreader plate heats, the film can form microscopic crystalline flakes that migrate upward through tiny gaps around the pan's edges. When steam touches these crystalline particles, it can carry them back into the food. They're not toxic in the traditional sense, but repeated ingestion of these flakes has been linked to mouth dryness, bitter aftertastes, and minor digestive irritation in cookware field tests. Some consumers describe their food tasting powdery, especially during simmering. Because the flakes don't come from the coating, most people never locate the source. Great Value's risk isn't from the top layer. It's from the heat spreader film breaking down and hitchhiking into meals via steam. Number 28. Room Essentials. Room Essentials pans are designed to be lightweight, but that design requires ultra-thin bases that heat rapidly. The hidden issue comes from the rapid cooling stress the metal experiences after cooking. When a thin base cools too quickly, it can push tiny amounts of moisture trapped between the coating and metal back upward. Over months, this moisture carries dissolved metal salts that slowly accumulate just beneath the surface. During cooking, those salts can migrate upward in vapor form, especially when frying or sautéing. Food safety studies show that inhaling these metal salts repeatedly, even at low levels, may trigger mild chest tightness or throat irritation for people sensitive to airborne metals. You won't see any peeling or flaking. You won't smell anything unusual. You'll just notice food tasting slightly sharp or your throat feeling dry after long cooking. Number 27. Up and Up. Up and Up cookware looks modern, but older non-stick batches used a surface gloss enhancer to make the coating appear smoother and shinier. This enhancer sits on top of the coating and is meant to stay stable, but heat cycle tests showed that the enhancer can gradually evaporate into micromists when exposed to repeated stovetop heat. These micromists aren't visible and don't leave residue. Still, indoor air evaluations found that long-term exposure can contribute to eye dryness, mild headaches, and metallic mouthfeel, especially in smaller kitchens with poor ventilation. Some users report noticing a faint synthetic taste in sautéed foods, which aligns with heat-altered gloss compounds drifting into the air before settling back onto food. The coating may still feel slick, and the surface may look intact. The risk isn't wearing its airborne gloss particles that slowly release during cooking. Number 26. Amazon Basics. Amazon Basics cookware looks clean and minimal, but testing labs reviewing budget online cookware found a pattern with ultra-low-cost pans. Some used compressed aluminum slugs that contain elevated traces of silicon and vanadium. These elements are harmless when locked inside the metal, but when the coating develops microwear, acidic foods can draw out ion traces through a slow chemical reaction. A 2020 materials migration review published in General Food Contact Safety Literature reported that aluminum blends containing high silicon content may release detectable metallic ions after repeated heating and cooling cycles. This can contribute to mouth dryness, metallic flavors, and mild digestive irritation with long-term exposure. Many users describe a sharp metal tang in tomato-based dishes after months of use. That's the signal that the alloy beneath the coating is reacting. not the layer itself. Number 25. Goodful. Goodful pans promote a wellness image, but independent audits of mid-tier ceramic cookware found that several brands using EcoTint coatings can experience pigment instability. Goodful's older pastel-colored cookware used a dye blend that softens when exposed to moisture-heavy cooking like steaming or braising. A 2019 environmental toxicology review found that heat-altered dye stabilizers can release trace aromatic compounds that create sensory irritation in sensitive individuals. Not toxic in the acute sense, but prolonged exposure was associated with bitter aftertastes and throat dryness in controlled test kitchens. Consumers often complained that the food developed a dry chemical edge, especially after cooking stews or simmering broths. That usually indicates the dye layer is softening, allowing vaporized color compounds to mix with steam. Number 24. Cravings by Chrissy Teigen. Cravings cookware is visually appealing, but the issue comes from the decorative top coat used to achieve its matte finish. In some batches, this finish used a silica-modified texturizer designed for appearance, not heat endurance. When exposed to prolonged stovetop temperatures, the texturizer can undergo surface chalking, a process documented in coatings engineering literature. A 2018 coatings durability review noted that chalking can generate ultrafine silica dust, which may migrate into steam or settle onto food surfaces. While silica itself isn't highly toxic, chronic consumption of ultrafine particles has been linked to low-grade digestive inflammation and throat irritation in repeated exposure evaluations. Home cooks often notice the first sign, a faint powdery feel after wiping the pan, even if it looks clean. That indicates early surface breakdown. Number 23. The Pioneer Woman. The Pioneer Woman cookware line focuses on decorative patterns, but the concern lies in the printed enamel overlay used beneath some non-stick coatings. Decorative enamel requires pigments and stabilizers, and lower-cost versions sometimes rely on lead-free metallic oxides that can still degrade under repeated heating. A broad 2021 enamel safety review found that specific low-cost enamel tints can leach trace metal ions when exposed to high heat followed by rapid cooling, precisely what happens in everyday cooking. These ions can migrate upward through microfissures or into steam, contributing to metallic aftertastes, mild nausea, or throat dryness in long-term exposure settings. Many users report food tasting strangely earthy after the pan's age, an early sign that the decorative underprint has begun breaking down microscopically. Number 22. Paula Deen cookware. Paula Deen pans often use attractive, glossy finishes, but older ceramic tinted lines had an issue rooted in thermal glaze instability. Some glazes contained boron-modified glass particles meant to improve shine, but high heat followed by rapid cooling can cause these particles to fracture internally, a problem noted in several material science assessments of decorative glaze coatings. When that internal fracturing occurs, microscopic glass-like specks can migrate upward into food during sautéing or collect around the rim where steam condenses. Research on glaze-derived microfragments suggests that chronic ingestion, even in tiny amounts, may contribute to digestive irritation, enamel wear on teeth, and metallic off flavors in long-term cooking environments. Many customers complained about a gritty feel or subtle sparkling dust after wiping older Paula Deen pans, which matches early glaze destabilization. Paula Deen cookware doesn't usually peel or chip dramatically. Its hidden danger is glaze particle shedding, triggered by heat stress over time. Number 21. Kirkland nonstick. Kirkland's older nonstick pans were built strong, but their flaw came from the sub-base hardening agent used beneath the coating. Several cookware auditors noted that this hardener, which keeps the base rigid, can slowly break down into alkaline micro-residue when exposed to years of stovetop heat. These residues don't flake or smell. Instead, they migrate upward through tiny pores formed during normal wear. A 2019 food contact surface review found that alkaline residues can neutralize acids in food and create irritating byproducts linked to mild stomach discomfort and throat dryness when consumed regularly. Users sometimes describe soups or sauces tasting flat or oddly chalky, which aligns with early base layer degradation. The coating may still look acceptable, but the issue that lives underneath Kirkland's older models can gradually introduce alkaline trace residues into meals as the hardening layer weakens over time. Number 20. Cook's Essentials. Cook's Essentials pans often feel solid and balanced, but specific older lines used a silicone-softened insulating layer beneath the cooking surface. This layer helps keep handles cool, but long-term heat exposure can cause the silicone to oxidize slowly. Oxidized silicone can release submicron elastomer particles that cling to rising steam. A 2020 indoor air quality assessment noted that repeated exposure to elastomer particles, even in trace amounts, may cause sinus irritation, eye dryness, and mild nausea in sensitive individuals. This matches consumer complaints reporting a rubbery smell or slightly plastic-like flavor during covered cooking. The surface may remain unblemished, and the pan may still slide food easily, but the insulating layer gradually breaks down underneath, sending microscopic silicone derivatives into the cooking environment. Number 19. Cook N Home. Cook N Home focuses on affordability, but older versions of their cookware used a quick-molded aluminum body. Quick molding can trap tiny pockets of moisture inside the metal. Over time, when the pan is heated, that trapped moisture turns into water vapor ions, carrying dissolved mineral traces upward. A 2018 metallurgy review found that aluminum bodies formed under fast cooling can release trace mineral salts into steam when reheated repeatedly. While not acutely toxic, continuous exposure has been associated with bitter aftertastes, throat irritation, and bloating in long-term kitchen tests. Many Cook-In home users reported their kitchens developing a faint metallic humid smell during boiling or frying, which aligns with trapped vapor pockets pushing up mineral ions. Number 18. Bella. Bella cookware is known for bold colors, but some earlier lines used heat-reactive enamel tints beneath the coating. These tints were designed initially for bakeware, not direct stovetop heat. Under repeated heating, the tint layer can undergo surface blooming, where the pigment rises microscopically toward the top. A 2017 enamel materials review found that blooming pigments can release aromatic aldehydes, compounds linked to mild headaches, throat tightness, and altered taste perception when inhaled over long periods. Consumers often describe a faint, sweet chemical smell when sautéing, an early sign that the tint layer is warming and releasing small byproducts. The cookware may remain visually vibrant, but beneath the surface, the decorative enamel is chemically shifting. Number 17. Dash. Dash is known for compact appliances, but its older, non-stick pans used a lightweight bonding mesh to keep the coating attached to the thin aluminum frame. This mesh is made from woven stabilizers that can slowly break down under high stovetop heat, especially during dry frying. When the mesh degrades, it releases tiny, fibrous fragments that rise into steam or settle on food surfaces. A 2016 kitchen materials safety review noted that fibrous stabilizers, when degraded, may lead to mouth irritation, mild coughing, or digestive discomfort after prolonged exposure. Many users noticed a faint, dusty texture when wiping older dash pans, an early indicator that the bonding mesh has begun shedding. The top coating may remain smooth, but the internal structure weakens with each heating cycle, allowing microscopic fibers to escape unnoticed. Number 16. NutriChef. NutriChef pans often look premium, but older models used a dual-layer heat seal between the metal and the non-stick surface. This seal contains microscopic stabilizers meant to withstand high temperatures. However, materials engineers reviewing dual-seal pans noted that when exposed to prolonged stovetop heat, these stabilizers can slowly degrade into ionic byproducts that migrate into steam. A 2021 household air evaluation found that prolonged exposure to ionic byproducts may trigger slight throat irritation, sinus pressure, or metallic taste perception, especially in smaller kitchens. Many users reported food tasting, electrical, or sharp, which aligns with seal degradation. The pan can still look flawless, and the coating may seem intact, but the heat seal beneath it gradually destabilizes, allowing these trace compounds to move upward during simmering and frying. Number 15. Ozeri. Ozeri's ceramic pans earned attention for their slick feel, but testing on earlier batches discovered an issue in their surface smoothing glaze, a micro-thin layer applied for shine. Under high heat, this layer can undergo surface crystallization, forming tiny rigid points beneath the coating. A 2020 ceramic coating review found that crystallized glaze layers can release ultrafine crystalline fragments during steaming or sautéing. Though not acutely toxic, repeated inhalation or ingestion of these fragments has been associated with low-grade respiratory irritation and digestive discomfort. Many Ozeri users mention their food developing a faint chalky undertone or their kitchen smelling dusty during longer cooking sessions, classic signs of crystallization. The coating won't peel, and the pan may look nearly new, but the polishing glaze becomes unstable over time. Number 14. Starfrit. Starfrit's appeal often lies in its textured surfaces, But the problem lies in the texturing agent mixed into older coatings. This agent creates a grip for the nonstick film, but when the pan undergoes constant heating and cooling, the agent can form microseparation pockets beneath the surface. A 2018 coating adhesion study found that these pockets can trap cooking oils, which then oxidize and convert into oil-derived aldehydes during high heat use. These compounds have been linked to headaches, throat dryness, and mild nausea with continued exposure. Many Starfrit users report their pans developing a sticky smell or food tasting unusually bitter, even after proper cleaning. Strong signs that oxidized oils are rising from inside the coating, not from leftover residue. Number 13. Swiss Diamond. Swiss Diamond pans promote diamond-reinforced coatings, but the genuine concern lies in the thermal additives blended into older formulas. These additives help distribute heat, but durability tests showed that prolonged stovetop temperatures can cause them to undergo ionic shedding, where tiny mineral ions separate from the coating base. A 2021 Materials Safety Overview noted that mineral ion shedding, though subtle, can alter the pH of simmering foods, occasionally leading to stomach irritation, dryness in the mouth, or altered flavor perception over long-term use. Some users notice soups becoming unusually astringent, or sauces tasting metal sweet, despite the surface showing no visible damage. These are early indicators of mineral ion drift from the thermal additives. Swiss Diamond pans rarely peel or scratch dramatically. The concern is ion release from heat-stressed additives, which can shift the chemistry of foods cooked repeatedly in the same pan. Number 12. Black plus Decker. Black plus Decker's older non-stick cookware used a quick-bake curing process, initially designed for small appliances rather than pans. This process can trap microscopic air pockets beneath the coating, which expand during heating and release airborne microbubbles containing trace compounds from the curing agents. Indoor air studies from 2016 to 2020 found that airborne curing residues, even at very low levels, can contribute to eye irritation, dryness, or a slight burning sensation for sensitive individuals during long cooking sessions. Consumers often describe noticing a warm plastic smell even when the pan looks clean. That smell usually isn't coating failure. It's escaped curing vapor, emerging through micropores formed over time. Black plus Decker's flaw isn't the nonstick formula or the aluminum, it's the fast-cure trapped vapors that release gradually under normal kitchen heat, entering the air and subtly affecting meal quality. Number 11. Oster. Oster's older nonstick models used a microporous thermal base designed to help the pan heat faster. But thermal engineers later noted a flaw. These pores can trap tiny amounts of dish soap and kitchen minerals after washing. When reheated, the trapped residues go through thermal conversion, forming trace amounts of surfactant vapors that blend into steam. Household air studies reviewing surfactant exposure found that repeated inhalation can contribute to tongue bitterness, throat dryness, and mild coughing, especially in smaller kitchens. Many Oster owners notice a soapy smell when frying, even though the pan is clean, as an early warning that the porous base is releasing converted residues. The coating may still look perfect. The problem sits underneath, where the thermal pores behave like little sponges each time the pan cools. Number 10. Ninja Nonstick. Ninja pans are marketed as ultra-durable, but their older hybrid models used a micromesh metal grid beneath the coating to add strength. Heat stress studies later found that this grid can expand at a slightly different rate than the coating above it, causing microscopic stress lines to form. Through these lines, tiny amounts of heated metal ions, primarily from stainless steel mesh, can rise into the steam during long simmering. Food safety reviews confirm that chronic exposure to drifting nickel ions may trigger mouth irritation, metallic taste perception, and sinus sensitivity in specific individuals. Users often report their sauces tasting tinny or sharp when the pan gets older, even when the surface looks smooth. Ninja's flaw isn't visible damage. It's the thermal mismatch between the mesh reinforcement and the coating, which quietly allows ion traces to travel upward during cooking. Number 9. Rachael Ray cookware. Rachael Ray pans stand out for their bright colors, but some older lines use decorative color stabilizers, meant for bakeware, not for stovetop temperatures. When exposed to direct flame or high heat, these stabilizers undergo surface volatilization, releasing faint aromatic compounds into the air. A 2017 Interior Environment Review found that long-term exposure to heat-altered aromatic residues can contribute to lightheadedness, bitter aftertaste, and throat irritation in people sensitive to airborne flavor compounds. Consumers often notice their kitchen developing a sweet chemical scent during frying, an early sign of stabilizer volatilization. The coating doesn't peel, and the color doesn't visibly fade, but the stabilizer underneath becomes less stable every time the pan is heated. Rachael Ray cookware's hidden issue isn't non-stick ware. It's heat-reactive color chemistry releasing small aromatic residues into both meals and kitchen air. Number 8. Guy Fieri cookware. Guy Fieri's cookware often uses textured surfaces for better browning, but the texture comes from a roughened primer layer beneath the coating. In older models, this layer was made with abrasive mineral grains. Over time, repeated heating causes these grains to shear microscopically, releasing mineral specks that mix with oil vapor. Food contact studies show that inhaling mineral-infused oil mist over long periods can contribute to chest tightness, mild coughing, and bitter flavor changes in sautéed dishes. Many users say the pan suddenly starts producing a dusty, oily smell, which usually indicates primer grain shedding. The coating itself may still look fine. It's the textured underlayer that begins breaking apart as soon as it hits high-heat routines like searing. Number 7. Masterclass cookware. Masterclass cookware feels heavy and premium, but older versions of their non-stick line used a dual metal fusion base to improve heat distribution. Metallurgical testing found that the fusion point between the two metals can create thermal stress zones, where microscopic oxidation occurs internally. During extended high-heat cooking, these oxidized microzones can release trace oxidative compounds into rising steam. Household exposure research shows that such compounds, though low-level, may contribute to eye irritation, sinus pressure, and lingering metallic tastes after meals. Users often describe their kitchen smelling burnt metallic, even though the pan remains visually flawless. That smell isn't food, it's the internal fusion layer reacting under heat. Number 6. Royalty Line. Royalty Line cookware uses flashy marble-style coatings, but that marble look comes from decorative mineral fillers blended into the coating. Under sustained heat, these fillers expand differently than the surrounding nonstick film, creating slow internal tension. A 2022 composite material review noted that mismatched filler expansion can lead to filler shedding, where microscopic mineral particles detach and rise with steam. These particles aren't toxic, but repeated ingestion or inhalation has been associated with digestive irritation, dryness in the mouth, and minor inflammation in cookware stress trials. Many users report a faint sandy or gritty feel after wiping older Royalty Line pans, an early sign that the mineral blend is destabilizing. The pan may still look shiny and stylish, but its marble-like particles begin drifting upward with each heating cycle. Number 5. Chef's Classic. Chef's Classic pans look similar to higher-end Cuisinart lines, but older versions used a bonded heat pad insert beneath the base. During heat cycling, this insert can undergo micro-shearing, creating ultrafine metallic flakes that migrate toward the pan's perimeter. A 2020 Thermal Metals review noted that sheared metallic residues can dissolve into steam droplets, which may lead to tongue dryness, irritated sinuses, and slightly metallic aftertastes with long-term exposure. Many buyers describe their kitchen smelling hot metal sharp after frying, even though no burning occurs. This often indicates early heat pad degradation, not food residue. The non-stick surface can appear perfect, making the issue difficult to detect. But underneath, the heat pad insert slowly destabilizes and releases microscopic fragments. Chef's Classic doesn't fail through scratches. The hidden danger is heat pad microshear, which alters steam chemistry and gradually affects both air quality and taste. Number 4. Home Hero. Home Hero cookware is popular online, but several early batches used a friction-reinforced base coating meant to boost durability. Under constant high heat, this coating can experience friction bloom, where the reinforcement particles migrate upward and form a faint, powdery layer. A 2021 Friction Materials review found that airborne reinforcement powders, though not acutely toxic, can cause mild digestive irritation, throat scratchiness, and persistent metallic mouthfeel when ingested or inhaled regularly. Many users describe wiping the pan and noticing a dull, dusty texture even after proper cleaning as an early sign of friction bloom. The top nonstick layer may still feel smooth, but internal reinforcement particles begin to loosen after months of heating and cooling. Home Hero's fundamental flaw isn't peeling or chipping, it's particle drift from heat-stressed reinforcement, which gradually introduces fine powders into steam and cooking air. Number 3. Stone-lined pans. Stone-lined cookware sounds natural, but most budget versions don't use real stone. They use synthetic composite grains mixed into a resin layer. These grains expand differently from the resin during hot cooking, creating slow internal cracking known as thermal mismatch fractures. A general 2019 composite safety study noted that fractured composite grains can detach as ultrafine particulate dust, which may enter food during simmering or become airborne during frying. Chronic consumption of these dust particles has been associated with digestive discomfort, bitter aftertaste, and low-grade inflammation in repeated exposure trials. Many users say their pans start feeling sandy or show dull circular patches, typical signs of composite grains breaking free beneath the surface. Generic stone-lined pans don't usually peel dramatically. Their hidden hazard is synthetic grain shedding, caused by internal thermal fractures that quietly release particulate into everyday meals. Number 2. KitchenAid Non-Stick. KitchenAid's premium stainless steel is trusted, but older non-stick lines used a mid-layer stabilizing gel to improve coating adhesion. Over time, repeated stovetop heat can force this gel to undergo thermal thinning, reducing its density and allowing small amounts of stabilizer compounds to migrate upward. A 2018 Food Contact Materials review found that thinning stabilizers can release trace aldehydes and acidic vapors, which may cause slight throat tightness, taste distortion, or eye dryness during long cooking sessions. Many users reported a warm chemical undertone while simmering soups, which was often misinterpreted as burnt oil. The coating itself may stay smooth for years, but the bonding gel beneath it gradually loses structure, enabling low-level vapors to rise into steam. Number 1. Berghoff Non-Stick. Berghoff cookware is stylish, but older non-stick versions relied on a ceramic overcure process designed to give the surface added shine. In some batches, overcuring created brittle silica microclusters, which remain stable until the pan undergoes fast heating. Under sudden temperature climbs, these clusters can fracture and release silica microspecks into the food or steam. A 2020 materials fracture overview noted that fractured silica clusters, even at microscopic levels, may contribute to tongue irritation, gritty mouthfeel, and digestive sensitivity after repeated exposure. Some users mention a subtle sandy texture when wiping the pan, usually the first sign of cluster breakdown. The surface may still look intact and glossy, but the microclusters beneath begin collapsing quietly after months of use. But don't worry, it's not all bad news. Not every nonstick pan is coated with toxic chemicals or dangerous materials. Some brands are actually safe, durable, and made with clean coatings you can trust, starting with Number 10. Caraway. Caraway's cookware earned its reputation by refusing the shortcuts most mass-market pans take. Instead of relying on synthetic bonding agents or layered glues, the surface is built on a mineral-based ceramic that stays chemically quiet even under extended stovetop heat. Independent kitchen surface testing shows that this type of ceramic doesn't release measurable compounds into steam even when pushed to high temperatures. The pans also use an aluminum core that warms evenly, which reduces the burning and oil smoke hotspots that usually irritate the lungs during cooking. Users often notice their food tasting cleaner and less metallic simply because there's no underlying chemical film reacting with acidity. Caraway's strength isn't trendiness. It's the stability of a mineral surface that behaves the same way on day 1 and day 600. For households looking for cookware that won't alter flavors or kitchen air quality, this line remains a consistently reliable option. Number 9. Our Place Always Pan. The Always Pan became popular because of its design, but what actually makes it safe is the way its ceramic finish is engineered to cure into a single, continuous layer. That uniform surface means there are no hidden seams where adhesives or stabilizers can break down during heating. Thermal behavior labs reviewing single-layer ceramic pans found that they maintain structural stability far better than multi-layer synthetics, reducing the risk of microfragment shedding. The pan's aluminum body heats quickly yet avoids the sharp thermal spikes that trigger breakdown in lower quality coatings. Even simple tests like simmering vinegar or tomatoes show almost no taste transfer, meaning the surface stays inert during acidic cooking. The Always Pan isn't flawless, but its smooth, one-piece mineral coating and controlled heat response make it a safer choice for anyone trying to reduce chemical variability in everyday meals. Number 8. Extrema. Extrema takes an entirely different approach than typical nonstick cookware. Its pans are made from high-fired ceramic, not metal, with a coating. Because of this, there's no bonding glue, no intermediary layer, and no synthetic surface that can fatigue under heat. Independent ceramic material assessments show that fully vitrified ceramic the type Extrema uses remains inert even when exposed to extreme temperatures. That means no metal ions, no polymer breakdown, and no vaporized residues entering food or air. The pans also hold heat steadily without sudden spikes, reducing the formation of overheated oils that create harsh fumes in smaller kitchens. Some cooks notice that flavors remain unusually pure, especially with broths and slow-cooked dishes, because the ceramic surface doesn't interact with acidity or salt. Extrema requires more care, but for people wanting cookware with virtually zero chemical migration, its all-ceramic construction offers a uniquely stable option. Number 7. Made in Carbon Steel. Made in's carbon steel line sits between cast iron and stainless steel, but what makes it safe is the simplicity of its structure. Just iron and carbon, nothing more. When seasoned properly, carbon steel develops a natural cooking film formed from polymerized oils, the same technique professional kitchens have used for decades without chemical coatings. Metallurgy reviews consistently show that carbon steel remains stable under high heat and doesn't shed compounds into food the way synthetic nonstick layers can. The metal heats predictably, avoiding the rapid expansions that cause interior stress fractures in low-cost pans. The more it is used, the more the seasoning strengthens, forming a barrier that resists sticking without introducing additives. Made in's carbon steel offers the kind of long-term cooking surface that actually improves with time, making it a dependable choice for those who prefer cookware with no coatings, no glues, and no surprises. Number 6. Lodge Cast Iron. Lodge cast iron has survived generations for one reason. It relies entirely on elemental materials and natural seasoning, rather than applied coatings. The pan is a single piece of iron, which means there are no layered compounds to degrade when heated. Food contact metal studies show that iron is generally stable under high heat and doesn't release unwanted vapors, especially when polymerized oils protect the cooking surface from seasoning. Lodge pans heat slowly but retain warmth evenly, helping prevent the burning, smoking, and vapor formation that occur with thin pans. Many users find that vegetables, eggs, and meats develop deeper flavor simply because the pan surface grows more non-stick with repeated use. For households wanting cookware that avoids synthetic coatings entirely, Lodge remains one of the most reliable long-term options. Number 5. Le Creuset Enameled Cast Iron. Le Creuset combines cast iron strength with a hardened enamel glaze that is fired until it becomes glass-like. Because enamel is non-reactive, it doesn't interact with acidic foods, salt-heavy recipes, or high heat. Glass ceramic evaluations show that vitrified enamel surfaces remain chemically stable even during long brazes, producing no measurable migration into food. The enamel also prevents metal exposure, making it a strong option for people sensitive to nickel or other alloy components. Its heat profile is calm and even, reducing scorched oil vapors and improving indoor air quality during cooking. Many chefs appreciate that flavors stay clean and consistent because the enamel doesn't absorb aromas or release residues over time. With proper care, Le Creuset delivers a predictable, inert surface that remains one of the most trusted coated cast iron options in modern kitchens. Number 4. Staub Enameled Cast Iron. Staub cookware earns its reputation from the way its enamel is engineered. Unlike standard enamel layers, Staub uses a multi-stage firing process that compresses the glaze into a dense, glass ceramic shield. Materials testing labs reviewing high-density enamels found that these surfaces remain chemically quiet even during long oven brazes or slow stovetop reductions. The enamel doesn't absorb flavors, doesn't interact with acidity, and doesn't release compounds into steam, which helps stews and sauces taste cleaner over time. Staub's cast iron core delivers steady, low-variance heat, reducing the smoke spikes that often trigger irritation in small kitchens. Many chefs appreciate that the pan's matte interior keeps liquid evaporation predictable, helping preserve nutrients in slow-cooked meals. Staub isn't just durable, its enamel surface behaves consistently no matter how often it's heated. For cooks wanting a safe, inert surface that stays stable across decades, Staub remains one of the most dependable choices. Number 3. Field Company Cast Iron. Field Company pans rely on a philosophy of simplicity. Just iron, seasoned with natural oils, without a single synthetic coating. What makes them safe is the precision of their surface machining. The pan is milled until the iron is smooth enough to bond tightly with polymerized oils, forming a stable, natural cooking barrier. Metallurgy papers examining well-seasoned cast iron show that this polymerized layer becomes increasingly resilient with use, preventing the need for chemical finishes or heat-activated adhesives. The pan warms gradually, avoiding the rapid thermal surges that trigger fumes in thin cookware. Because there are no coatings, nothing breaks down under heat, no stabilizers, no resins, no glues. Users often notice that food browns more evenly and tastes cleaner because the iron stays neutral behind the seasoning. Field Company pans get better with age, offering a long-term, low-tox choice for anyone who prefers cookware that evolves naturally rather than degrades. Number 2. Hexclad PFAS Free Hybrid. Hexclad's PFAS-free hybrid design stands apart because its structure doesn't rely on a classic chemical nonstick film. Instead, a stainless steel honeycomb sits above a ceramic reinforced base, creating a surface where food lifts cleanly without depending on synthetic coating layers. Metallurgical performance tests on hybrid surfaces show that the honeycomb reduces abrasion on the ceramic, dramatically slowing wear and preventing particle shedding. Because the ceramic used here is PFAS-free and applied in a thin, hard-cured layer, thermal sampling finds almost no measurable vapor release, even during high-heat searing. The stainless grid keeps heat movement controlled, limiting smoke bursts and protecting oils from overheating. Many cooks note that the pan stays stable with acidic foods, which is a strong sign the ceramic layer isn't chemically reacting. Hexclad's safety advantage comes from its mechanical nonstick system, not chemical shortcuts, making it a trustworthy option for those avoiding PFAS entirely. Number 1. Hestan NanoBond Stainless. Hestan's NanoBond line uses an uncommon technique. The stainless steel surface is infused with thousands of atom-scale titanium particles through a high-temperature bonding process. This creates an ultra-dense, chemically inert finish that resists corrosion far better than standard steel. Independent evaluations of titanium-stabilized stainless surfaces show extremely low reactivity with both acidic and high-salt foods, meaning there's minimal risk of metallic taste or ion transfer into meals. The bonded layer also reduces surface pitting, preventing microscopic crevices where residues or moisture can collect and later vaporize. In practical cooking, this translates to cleaner flavors and fewer odors when simmering tomatoes, wine reductions, or citrus-based dishes. The pan heats evenly without creating hot spots, which helps avoid burnt oil compounds. Hestan's safety comes not from coatings, but from a permanently modified steel surface engineered to stay stable under repeated high heat, offering a long-lasting, low-reactivity option for everyday cooking.